Hi, dreamers. Happy Thursday, and welcome to our weekly show, Chasing Dreams Thursdays. Welcome to those of you who are watching live, and to those of you who are going to be watching the recording. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you can join us one Thursday evening when we're live and we can chat a little bit more. So, my name is Lisa McLean. I'm the CEO and founder of Lisa McLean Publications, and we are an organization that publishes children's books that help them to see themselves in their own books, see their experiences, their culture. But we also have a lot of coaching support for authors who are interested in self publishing their own books, their own novels, and just want some assistance in exploring that entire process. So if you get a chance, look us up, take a look at our website. The link is in the bio. And we can also be found at iamlisamclean.com. So happy to have you this evening. And as usual, I like to start off with a little note of what little thing did you do this week to chase those dreams? Because those dreams are only going to come to fruition if you go at them a little at a time. So I'm going to start, and if you have a little step that you want to share with us, a little bit to celebrate on how you chased your dreams this week, please share it in the chat so we can celebrate together. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Adrian. Thanks for joining. We're just getting started. And I was about to share my little step that I made towards moving towards my goals this week. And I hope you're going to share yours as well, because I'm sure you have some small victory to celebrate. Because it's great to celebrate the path, right? Can't wait till we get to the big goal. We have to enjoy the process. So my little bit this week actually doesn't have much to do with my publications business, but more the educational side of things. So I was pretty excited about a live that I had this week where I could share my dream of wanting to launch a community similar to what we have here, but a community that taps into encouraging children to celebrate a love of learning, a love of the process, a love of the ebbs and flows of what comes with learning new things and seeing that as a glorious thing. So a community for us as educators and as parents where we can get together and mentor each other and support each other through the process of caring for these young people who we are responsible for. And it was so interesting that one of my students signed in on Monday, and I challenged her with, should we do this for kids as well? So we're talking about that. Maybe it is that we need to have a community where we rekindle the joy within, but a community for kids where they can talk about how do they find joy in the journey and get that kind of mentoring and coaching support. So lots happening. I'm pretty excited about it. Yes, it doesn't have anything to do with publishing, but it's my other passion and my first love, to be honest. So that's my little step. And Adrian shares that she has been working slowly on content ideas for her blog. Nice, I like it. We've been talking about this. She's in one of my communities. I'm really excited to see that she's jumping in, taking the bulls by the horn and just deciding to start, because you really just need to start. Really just need to start. I found an interesting quote this week. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining. I came across an interesting quote by Sylvester Stallone this week. And we all know Sylvester Stallone for his role in the movie, the series Rocky, right? But so often we forget that he was a writer. He wrote the screenplays for those movies and many others. He's actually quite well regarded and respected where that is concerned. And I came across a quote, and essentially, and I'm sorry I didn't write it down, but essentially he was saying, you just have to start. We're all really bad at writing when we start, but you just need to jump in. it grows, it evolves. So don't ever think that you can't do this and you can't start writing. You really just need to start. It's like any other skill that you have to learn. And it's only when you get going and you exercise that skill that you find that it refines itself and you improve over time. Hi, Sanjay. Thanks for joining. Good to see you. So that was my little bit that I shared for today. Feel free to share in the chat if you haven't what your little victory was for this week. And while you're doing that, while you're sharing, I am going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We have been talking about some interesting things in the news to do with publishing, and I just wanted to follow up with one of those before we jump into tonight's topic. So I had mentioned before that the Penguin Random House merger has been blocked. So they were actually trying to purchase Simon & Schuster. So you may not realize that 80% of the publishing market in the States is dominated by what they call the five big, the big five is what they call them. I'm reading it. I just want to make sure I get it all right. And so there was a huge lawsuit with an attempt to block Penguin Random House from purchasing Simon & Schuster. Because of course now you'd move from having 5 to having 4, because those are 2 of the big 5s. The other 3 players, in case you want to know, are HarperCollins, Hachette, and Macmillan. And it was interesting to see that the court blocked the merger because they felt, in quotes, that this might substantially lessen competition. What was interesting is that you actually had a lot of prominent public authors coming out to speak against it. So this was not even just an issue and a concern for self-publishers, but those who wish to go the traditional route were just as upset. So one of the biggest people who spoke out was Stephen King, who felt that, okay, if we start to narrow down the field, that this could not be healthy for publishing. So there we go. That was interesting. Next week, we have a guest. Disclaimer, she is my cousin, but she's a phenomenal journalist and she teaches writing. And I've gotten her to appear on the show after much, much encouragement. And so our guest this week will be Kia Penso. And then coming, and we haven't set a date yet, I will also have a guest who writes screenplays. Because, you know, we talk a lot about on this show about writing books. I think we've talked about poems. I do have some wonderful poets in my community. But we talked about blogs, newsletters, so, you know, shorter pieces. But we've never really talked about other types of writing and other avenues that you can pursue if you are interested in writing. And novels just may not be your thing. And so I have invited a friend of mine. I will not say anything, not giving it away until we can pinpoint an actual date. But I've invited a friend of mine who is a phenomenal and very passionate writer. He writes film, to join us to talk about that as an avenue that you can pursue. So stay tuned, more on that to come. And then for those of you who are familiar with our writing communities, I want to remind you that we don't have communities only for adults. We have for children. So if there is a young person, a child or a teen, who is interested in writing and self-publishing, check us out, IamLisaMcLean.com. We do have a community for them as well. In fact, I will be attending a book launch this weekend, not one of my students, but another student elsewhere. And I just think it's so exciting when children are able to find a voice and enjoy the idea of writing their own books and creating books for their peers. So exciting stuff. Share if you know anyone who might be interested. Tonight's topic, let's jump in. So I have self-published 3 books, and I'm in the process of finalizing one more that I've been working on for a while. And I've been working on it for a while because I had in my mind a very clear vision of what I wanted the illustrations to look like. I figured if I'm going to do this, and it's my legacy, right? I hope you know that, guys. When you write, it's your legacy, it's your voice. It stays. It stays. There's somewhere in the world that there's a book that has your name on it. And so the same way that we're reading books by Jane Austen, by plays by William Shakespeare, these are decades, centuries old. That's reality for you as well. You are creating your own legacy. Someone will know your name because they would have picked up your book. And so if you're going to leave a legacy, you want to do it right. Now, that's not to say that the process doesn't evolve, right? So of course, your third book will always be way more outstanding than your first book. But I want to encourage you to, at any point in time, do the best that you can where you're at. And I'm suggesting tonight that there are 3 professionals that you want to try and make room for in your budget so that your book goes from good to great, right? And I just want to, before I jump into it, share some of the comments in the thread. Craig says he's super excited to see kids become authors, so am I. They have great stories to share, as well as do many of us adults. Thank you, Jeff. Yes, I'm pretty excited about this journey. I love your encouragement. Thank you for sharing that. So tonight, let's talk about the 3 bigs, the 3 bigs for your budget. And I say bigs for your budget because they can be costly. So you want to punch those numbers before you even get started. And after I finish sharing, we can talk about how you can find these resources and these persons if you are on a very tight budget, because that's the reality for many self-publishers. So let's get started with the 3 bigs first. If you are publishing, the first thing that anyone sees is your cover. And so you want your cover to really pop. You want it to truly represent your book and truly represent you as an author, as a person, as a brand. So you want to find someone who really gets a sense of what your story is about and can capture that in a stunning visual. Now, it doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be very simple. But a really effective cover is that nice balance of a great image, the perfect font for the text, right, for your title, and a catchy title. Now, you can come up with a title on your own, but you really want to spend a little bit more and engage someone, a really good artist, who can pull it all together, who can give you a strong image and give you a really good balanced layout of title, placement, image, because it's a piece of art, and visually it has to balance, and you want to hand that over to someone who understands what they're doing and will deliver, because when you're walking through that bookstore, you want that cover to jump out. You don't want someone to walk past and go, yeah, okay. So, number 1, spend. Find an artist who can deliver on a really good cover, a very effective cover. Again, does not have to be complicated. It can be a very simple image. It could be a photograph. But ensure it's a really good representation of what it is that you've published, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, for children, for adults. Now, that kind of segues into what I think is the second best spend for your book, because this person could do this for you as well, right? So you could pick an artist or graphic designer to do this, but if you know that you're going to be commissioning illustrations for your text, then it is something that your illustrator could do as well. So my Little Ray book that has been in the works for so long because I refuse to publish it unless it's just right, it's the illustrator who also did the cover design, right? And so that's my other big spend. If you know that you are going to want images for your books, especially those of you who are creating children's books. So images are going to be important, whether they're brightly colored for picture books or still, sketches for a chapter book. They still need to be a good interpretation of the characters, and they still need to be aesthetically pleasing, right? Nobody's buying an ugly book, right? And there's an art to designing the interior of a book. And if you look at some of the books that are being published recently, what is great is that there's this combination of the story and the pictures coming together. So you will see the text with accents throughout the font, little whimsical drawings sometimes, or even the font, they play with the sizing of the font. Or if it's like the artist, the writer for the Hugo Cabret book. I don't remember the proper name of the book. Something Hugo Cabret, beautiful book. You will see that there are these lovely black and white sketches that intersperse with the text. And so part of the story is done with the image, and then part is done with the text. Or certainly if you're doing a graphic novel. But spend the money on an illustrator if you can. What you will find, this can be costly. So you want to check around and know what you have to work with, but I wouldn't compromise in this regard. And the same goes for if it's photography. If you're going to want pictures, so choose a really strong photographer, someone who can get the job done, right? Hi, Craig. Hi, Andrew. Wasn't taken. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to pause here for a question from Craig because it has to do with these two topics that I pointed out. Can it be any graphic artist? No, it cannot be any graphic artist, because unfortunately, not all graphic artists, graphic designers understand books. So you do want to speak to someone who understands books. Just because they're good at art and layout, that could be for an advertisement, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they can get your particular audience, creating and choosing the right font, creating and choosing the right font for children versus adults. And my third biggie that I will throw out there is spend the money on an editor. And I realize my video is doing really weird things. So I apologize to anyone who's on Instagram if you see funny flashes. So spend the money on an editor, because an editor does two things. An editor is going to check for grammatical and punctuation errors, little structural issues like that. What they'll also check for are structural issues with the manuscript itself. So they go through and they make sure it's not too wordy, it's not too repetitive. They'll go through and make sure that the flow, everything flows as it should, that the structure is sound. They'll make sure that you've developed what needs to be developed, that you haven't spent too much time at the beginning, but then the end falls flat. There is an art to the structure. And sometimes as writers, we cannot pick up on structural issues or grammatical errors because it's our work and we've probably seen it too much. So definitely do the spend on finding someone who can edit your manuscript well. So just a quick recap, my three big spends today. These are the three professionals you want to engage, particularly as a self-publisher, to ensure that your manuscript is great, that it's amazing, that it pops. You want to find the right person to do your cover design, whether it's an illustrator or a graphic artist. You want to find a good illustrator / photographer, whoever's doing the artwork for your book. And you want to spend on someone to edit your manuscript to really make sure that it comes together well and is an easy and enticing read. Now, that being said, these professionals can be very expensive. So a really good illustrator could cost you $100 US an image, about. A cover could cost you $200-$300, and that's in US as well. An editor could cost you hundreds, almost to like 1,000, 2,000, depending on the nature of the manuscript, length, things like that, their experience level. But you have platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, many others online that you can source, where you may be able to find somebody to do this for you at a reduced rate. So for example, when I did my graphic novel, I was actually able to find a really good graphic designer who could do the layout for my book and who understood the children's market, so could guide me through the difference between the specifications for Amazon versus Barnes & Nobles, for the ebook versus the paperback. So that's the other beauty with searching widely. And he was more within my budget compared to some of the quotations that I had gotten locally. You could also, a good option is to work with a university student. They might be willing to charge you a little bit less for the experience of just kind of getting their name out there. That's a good option. And certainly you can barter services. So if you have a friend who is really good at drawing, a good photographer, or really good at editing, you may want to trade services. So maybe ask them to edit your book in exchange for some blog posts for their website. The alternative to, no, I think I said it, forgive me. I think I lost my train of thought there a bit. But as I said, choose well. If you can afford it and you can pay someone, a professional, to do it, great. If not, there are some creative routes that you can explore to do this on a budget. But it's definitely worth considering. I definitely would not tell you to hold back in that regard. Yes, Craig, do it well. I like that. I think that's a very important statement. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me. Hi, A Marriott 876. Thanks for joining. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me. Hi, Zachary. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. I don't know if you have any questions for me on this topic at all, or any experiences with any of this that you want to share. So if you joined us late, definitely check the video when you're finished. It will be posted on our Instagram page, on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page. These are my clean publications, and we're talking about 3 areas that you don't want to scrimp on when you are self-publishing, so that your book really stands out. All right. So I hope you're all hearing me clearly now. I do see where Craig did say that the stream went down for a little, but it's back up and running. So excited to have you here today. You're always such really good company. So before I wrap up for today, just want to remind you that we will have a guest next week who will be speaking on writing, Kia Penso. She is phenomenal, an amazing journalist and writer and editor. So please bring all your questions in any of these regards. And a reminder that our writing communities cater not just to adults, but we have groups for kids and teens, for students who want to write as well as self-publish. So definitely give us a shout if you know of a kid or teen who is looking for a safe community to self-publish their own work. We are there and happy to help. All right, so going to wrap up for tonight. It's about that time, 2 minutes to 9. It was great hanging out with you. And definitely share your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you have any questions or if you need me to point you in any direction so that you can get a jump on your publishing journey. It's pretty exciting. Definitely want to have your voice out there. So as usual, remember to chase your dreams this week. Take it one step at a time. And I will see you again at 8:30 next week, Thursday. Looking forward to seeing you. Thanks, Jeff. And I agree. These are definitely things that we can all do. Definitely. So let me know how that journey is going for you. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. So good to see you tonight.